3, 4. Not a perfect kind of boxing style punch, but more of like a haymaker, targeting right by the eyes. You're coming right up to here, and the uppercuts coming through here. Don't do kind of like you see people doing this stuff.
Don't paddle punches.
Right, right. So, coming here, we're going to do both hands first.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the one thing I would do is keep it in close. All right. One of the things for like
I keep my hands here.
right, and that's where you slide up. It's one of the biggest differences between like a karate style, driving up like this, where it's this bigger motion, or coming through like this, keeping it in tight, and a little hook. And you want to have a little hook of your wrist on all these, because that's going to be what we use to direct, to follow up with our next techniques. So we're coming here, 1, 2, and I'll mix it up. I'll start here, we'll get into a rhythm, and then I'll mix it up. Now, what's the one mistake you're making? Where should your eyes be looking?
I'm just looking at here.
Right. A lot of different theories on this.
Some say look at eyes,
Some say look, look at the shoulders, look at the chest. Those gyms very clear says look right at their eyes, look directly in their eyes, and that's what I want you guys to work on. So looking directly into their eyes as you're doing it, because if I'm looking at his eyes and he's looking at my chest, or he's looking at my hands, I know where to throw my next strike. Relax the shoulders. There you go. See the difference when you relax the shoulders?
Yeah.
You got a lot faster. The other thing that happens, and I want you to be very conscious of this because it's automatic, and be careful when you do this. I don't want you tagging each other. At some point, it's fun to do this with gloves and actually just crack each other when they don't get the block up. What happens when you miss, or when you miss a block? What's the automatic response in class?
Stop.
Stop, and what? There's something that goes along with it.
Oh shit.
Really?
Anger.
Johnny, fast Johnny.
Now you can't see it, but we kind of smile, we kind of laugh it off. Why do we do that?
Nervous?
Yeah, usually it is.
Nervous energy.
Yeah, it's that nervous energy. It's like, yeah, I just got cracked in the face. So, and what that does is that pulls us out. That pulls us out of that engagement with the other person, because it starts running through our head. We're thinking about, oh, I should have blocked, I didn't block, and you just kind of follow that cycle. It's just like if you do meditation stuff. One thought gets thrown in your head, and you follow it, and you follow it. Well, that next punch is coming. So as soon as that happens, as soon as you get it, we're not going to be hitting each other, but as soon as you go, man, I didn't block that, it's right here. That initial unconscious response is laugh. And step back. Get over that, get through that, and just keep punching, and keep blocking. The person punching, don't stop. Keep going. Don't hit them, all right? But just keep firing through with those punches. Get them close, but keep going through it, because it's a really interesting phenomenon that when it's hard to break. It's really hard to break, and it's really detrimental to focus and doing a lot of these exercises. So grab a partner, try and punch at each other. The person doing the strikes you should feel it. You should feel it in the forearms.
Red belt and green belt joints. There you go.
Pair up and throw punches. Get in the rhythm first. Throw them in order first, and then once they get in the rhythm, let them know and then switch it
I
up.
didn't say you shouldn't either, Ready? It's really easy. Only this side, only this side, only this side.
Am I blocking or punching?
Yeah, you're blocking.
Okay.
Relax.
We're going more speed, not so much trying that.
Don't put your elbow out.
We're speed it up, speed it up.
Keep your elbow. Here, number 3?
Yeah.
Number 3 block.
Sorry.
Number 3.
No.
Right? This is number 4.
Close hands. Make close to some of these ones.
1,
Loose fist, we
2,
keep
3,
it fist.
and 4.
Right.
You guys know these blocks 3 and 4 are the set, right?
Yes.
Okay. Relax. I'm not going into just a minute. One more. So, look at Okay, down low. Keep it here, keep your arms here. Keep your arms here.
Alright, well, let's stop switching, let's get another partner. Or if have you switched
Straight,
strike?
just rotate one. This line.
You haven't switched strike.
Switch
Switch
strike.
strike. You guys keep going a little bit more.
Okay.
Ready? Five. Low. Put your hands here. So all you gotta do is this. Your elbow stays here. You start to just the hinge.
I got it.
Hinge.
Not across here.
Hinge.
Yeah,
Just straight.
it's more of a reaction.
We'll get there.
Hinge. Keep them here. Just
Keep your body straight. Keep your body
remember
straight.
number 4?
Yes.
So I gotta do, don't reach far away for it. Just here.
Alright, go ahead, rotate.
5.
Well, make sure you do that last block whenever we say stop. Make sure you block. Don't let that be their final strike.
5. No, 3 opposite left.
Strike 2.
5.
You're switching already.
Make sure those are uppercuts. Make sure those are real uppercuts coming to the body.
Don't reach out towards me. You're staying with close to yourself. Follow me? Don't reach far away. If you reach far away, you leave everything open.
And switch strikers. The other person did.
Best time punch.
Just keep my arms up.
Yeah. So I got the jowls.
It's good like that.
Yeah, my place to do it, then throw some jowl on the arms. It's like,
Yeah.
never gonna let me.
That's all right, because I forgot to tell.
You can always nail some back too. I mean, I've done
Well, I got mine sitting there.
Yeah.
I gave some to Rob because he hurt himself. But he didn't get it for like a month, so it probably didn't do him any good.
Alright, let's stop there. Alright, we're gonna jump straight to one hand. So one hand, you're punching in. We're gonna do that same forward. Slow this down a little bit. So I'm going high. Drive the elbow up. 2 comes the other side. Here. Pull down slightly. 3. Push the elbow out. 4. Pull up a little bit.
You guys know this
Difference.
sequence.
So it's coming 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right?
So get that feel down and then again mix it up after a little bit.
It's 2, 3, 4, 5 in our normal count. Okay?
Okay?
Remember?
You
2,
remind me of
3,
fencing
4,
practice when
5.
you do that.
What?
You remind me of fencing practice when you do that.
It's not 1, it's 2, 3, 4, 5. In our count. I keep him to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why I call it 2 to 5.
So what's 1?
Yes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I don't think I have a real order. I know I broke down. Real order.
It's just 4 when we start. So we go here, but then here. Circle, here, and here. Which could be this guy or
Here,
this guy.
I'll do that.
Yeah. I don't do that here, but this turns into this.
In the hand that's blocking, step that leg forward.
Okay, ready? Just gonna go put one hand behind your back.
Relax.
Suck it inside your back.
Relax. Doesn't have to be hard.
We're gonna go
Well, you're not. This isn't.
Only one hand.
This isn't karate. We're not trying to break their arm if you're doing a block. All you need to do is make it
3,
miss.
4, 5. That's the
Your
technique.
left hand behind you. Put your right foot forward.
1,
Yeah,
2,
but you can't, if I do this, you have 2 right away.
right.
Keep your hand here.
Use these drills regularly. When you guys are here warming up and loosening up, and he's
1.
and Master Rosenberg's got something going on, you know, you guys just grab a partner and do these.
Keep watching your chest.
Well, let me stick that in again, so start. 1,
It's really 2, 3, 4, 5 on our count.
yeah,
Forget about 1.
2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, Oh, no, no, under, right.
Look, look. Use the body to rotate 2, 3, 4. Just don't do this with your arms.
One's
Move your
low.
body, move your body, move your body, move your body.
He's throwing kind of halfway in between, so make sure,
Now,
when you guys are striking at each other, do the 4 strikes for now. We can fill it in with anything in between, but if we start doing these, if I start coming, you know, here, 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 and then I start doing these kind of in-between ones, it messes up. We're trying to get these basic ones down. So when you start mixing it up in between, doesn't mean we can't apply them in reality, but for doing the drills, keep it for those straight 4 directions, because it's beneficial to get that repetition in one specific thing and then expand out from that. If we do it, 50 different directions, you're throwing strikes all over the place, it's really hard to get any sort of pattern, any sort of rhythm, let your body get used to doing it. All right, let's follow with the strikes from here. So if you're striking and he's coming high, first one I'm driving up. Push the elbow up, striking down. So it comes up high, and we're just going to do this. Push, drive that elbow up, coming down. Second one, coming this way, pulling down.
See how that pulls down?
So there's a little hook, and I'm drawing down. So little hook, draw it straight up. Third one, push to the body. Give each other a little tap on this. We're getting soft in the belly.
Don't tap each other's necks too much, you'll get on your
Yeah, the neck, as you do this, you can keep this soft. All right, that works fine. And on the pull down, just pulling down, just get a little tap. Yeah, exactly. And then the fourth one, looking
Give him
here,
some extra love.
driving up, coming to the belly. Don't turn to the side, because what that's going to do, that gives me the floating ribs. And if I come down right there and those break, that's not going to feel good. Just come here. I'm not going to do any harder than that. All right, so you can make these as hard as you want. I mean, you can do these. These can be full-on body toughening, miserable, drills. But for now, I mean, just get that contact. Should be able to handle that. Here. What's the variation? This motion shows up in our clothing graphs. What's kind of the unofficial name for this? Do you guys use it?
Which one?
Not going to the body, we go lower.
A bladder fine.
Yeah, if you grab here,
Yeah.
going through here. What does Dojo call it though?
A baby, something like
No
that.
more babies.
No more babies.
No more babies. The target, the idea is, as you look, and you can even do it from this, I'm coming here and I'm coming straight down to the pelvis, where it's the pubic symphysis is basically where the pelvis joins, there's a piece of cartilage between. And if you break that, the risk of severing everything that goes down is pretty high. And, they're not walking one, your pelvis.
Does that hurt the right thing?
With this angle, probably not. I mean, you're coming down on an angle, your whole body's coming through with it. You could probably break that relatively easily.
Usually it goes through the bladder into it, yeah?
The bladder's sitting right on top of it, yeah.
So it's
I mean, you
nice
could.
to- That's a kill shot in knife fighting in Filipino martial art. Stab right there.
But for our purposes, if you break that, the risk of severing everything and then things aren't working, so hence no more babies. It's an easy one to remember. We modify it for the kid, or for most people, no more breathing. You're going to the belly, so as you're coming through, driving in, same thing with the punch, and the punch is in here, hooking up slightly, and then driving straight down. Be careful turning into that. I mean, it feels like it should be a little bit easier to get kind of the ribs there, but it kind of basically, if I'm striking straight here and you turn, you're giving me almost a more dangerous target to hit. So just feel in the belly.
Okay.
Do those 4. Let's break this. Let's do 5 each side. So here, 1, just boom, 5. Do 5 of those to the other side, or you switch holders. Make sure you get at least one side in. We don't have to get both sides.
Johnny, remember, drive it up. Yeah.
There you go.
Drive it up.
One.
Good. Up. Yeah. Use the elbow, push it up.
Birthday party or birthday party?
Okay. We're gonna block number 3.
Across.
All right.
This one?
You're gonna block number 3, and then you're sort of gonna do,
That's,
no, sort of like a
Just
non-reach, nineteen, ankle. Okay? Don't hit me now.
pull it in a way, so it stretches me out.
Yeah, but what?
Clear shot.
Let's do number two first.
No.
I'm gonna go this way, number two. And then this one. Right?
Sorry.
And then this one, then it's hand up, and then down. So it's more like,
Same goal?
this one, more like number four stroke. Number two blocks, number four stroke. But this one, two blocks. Number four stroke, yeah. And then, like, this is how hard it is, this is how you touch. Okay, that's it. Okay? No, it's not a hit, it's a touch. Remember I said to you just to do this? No? Not this.
So this side,
Okay.
this one you're pulling down.
You did, you don't know you did.
Draw down.
What?
So put your right foot,
Reach like
remember,
this.
these are all one-handed stuff.
Right out.
Right foot forward.
Strike, turn block.
And this one's here, so you can drop it down, put that down, and then just slice straight.
Relax, this whole thing. Just touch.
It's straight down.
Can't make it over. No. Look,
Yeah.
do it. Like, go on.
So as you're doing these, I want you to pay attention to what the challenges are, what makes some of these techniques a little bit difficult.
Yeah, you come, no,
No. You guys keep going.
you start. Here, no, you,
Bunch.
that's my time.
Sorry.
Right? See how you let it? That's how.
Just keep that leg
Laying
forward,
it.
the left leg
Not
forward.
really hitting it. I'm like,
Yeah, switch your feet.
So I want to step with the way I'm
No, you don't want to step, you're not stepping. So there's no step with any of these. When you're blocking, you're stationary. You're locked in like this. You're here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're, boom, strike. Here. 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 Just moving in, keeping that out in front.
no, really.
Side, going side.
No, listen, don't reach for the tech block. Just do it. Don't reach out for me. Just, don't reach into it, guys. Don't reach out. Go ahead. And touch. No, don't push it away.
You're supposed to push it.
It's a timing issue.
The block itself
The
pushes
block
it
is
away
the
automatically.
push, not block then push. It's all interconnected, but you gotta get it down. There you go.
Same one?
That's down.
Keep that foot forward, keep that foot forward. You should
Oh.
be fast. The
So
speed is
far.
what. So for these right now, the speed is what I'm looking for. I'm not worried about how hard you can hit. It really is. The punch comes in, I'm here. I want to be right there. I want to be in close, faster. So this is the speed. The block doesn't have to be hard. The block just has to redirect slightly so you don't get hit with a full force strike.
Remember, not correct.
Yeah, you just want to, these are soft redirections to get you in there so you can do your strike. Any questions on those? Any challenges on any of those specific techniques?
Remember
The last one seemed a little awkward.
The last one, which, so hook it up.
Could you go over all of them again, just in
Yeah, I have to go through all of them, because there's little details for all of these that are
We have
challenging.
it.
I think the challenge is getting the hook, pushing it away.
And then
Yeah, so this, and then, so drill that a lot, so if we're standing here, just keep doing that one. It's not much. A little bit. Just a little bit, because even just that there, if he's trying to pull his hand back, that little hook gets in the way of him trying to draw back, and that little hesitation gives me that window to strike. Okay, so that's for that one. It's tough to get this motion down if you're not used to it.
it's like a T-Rex block.
So there's ways to drill these, and they tie into a lot of our other techniques. One of the things we talk about with striking and most martial arts, I teach the kids classes, talk about them. Two most important things about a punch: tight fist, straight wrist. Keeping the wrist straight. A lot of our strikes will roll out. A lot of them will flex the wrist in different directions, and it's hard to get used to that because when we squeeze, we tend to not think about that. We tend to not roll or move in different directions. Coming up here, making sure, now if he ends up throwing a punch like that, not very realistic, right? Because what tends to happen All right. See how he's hooking his wrist? This is great if I'm going to follow with a lock. All right. If I feel this, if I make contact here, I'm just going to go right to there because he's already put himself in the lock by drawing his wrist back. So when you're striking, make sure you're not doing that. Make sure you're here and you're making contact, whether your fist is up like this or turned over. Make sure you're not bending at the end. If you get into that habit, it's what it is. It's I've made contact and you're trying to pull your hand back. And just like when we're doing, where you see it most often is with a Z-lock. If you grab here, people come around, they're trying to get more power and they do this. Right? And you guys have all probably done, trying to, it adds nothing to the technique. But I've reached an end point. I'm trying to pull and it's
Cinch off that last little bit.
trying to come on, get back, but you want it just to be there. You want it to just keep that wrist straight. You see it with people when they have like frozen shoulder, like if they can't move their shoulder, you tell them to touch their back, and they go like this. They're trying to get that last little bit, and it doesn't add anything. And it's just you've reached that end point, and then you're trying to reach here. Same thing here when you're coming in, trying to pull your hand back. Draw back the same way you came, right? Or drop, redirect the elbow to draw back in. Little tangent there, I'm not sure where I was heading there, but that's, whenever you see your wrist bending like that, then usually you're stuck somewhere. You're stuck somewhere further upstream, and you need to relax that and redirect there. So if you're drawing in like this, redirect to come back in. Wrist grab, same thing, cross hand. We do that judo lock where you come through like this. You see this all the time. People grab like this and they end up in this position with their wrist bent like this. Well, I don't have any power there. So as you're starting, that's where I want to be. I want my hand to be straight, my wrist to be straight, so as I come in, I'm straight down. His wrist is going to be the one that's bent, or he'll let go. So keeping the wrist in alignment when you're striking or when you're grabbing. When we're blocking, we're almost always going to be hooking it, but that's to direct it in a specific point in a specific way. Blocking up again, so that if I feel that right there, right away, I can already feel he's gotten it better. He's not touching my hand anymore. But if you feel that thumb come back like that, that's perfect position to then follow with the technique. This one here is the one people struggle with because they get to here and then they hit the shoulder. They try to follow the arm up. They pull down and they get stuck there. So as you're doing that, draw it in a little bit. So hooking down, follow it up, but in. Right. Very similar when you grab behind the neck. Same idea, when I push, I follow up, I use his body, his arm to feel where he is. I'm not grabbing and then trying to come up here. It's like, I'm feeling along here. Same thing, use that inside of the arm as I block down, come all the way up. If I go here, which is what the automatic habit is to come out and keep this away, you end up running into the shoulder. Right. Think of drawing up, straight up. The elbow one is mostly just the pivot, being able to turn in, get your whole body in. If you're doing kind of the, you guys still do a fair amount of groundwork, right? Turning your back, trying to give your back to somebody. That's the one risk here is you're just coming in, just turning out, but pivoting, turning your back right into somebody is one of those. You better have confidence. Well, you better have confidence.
You can go slide in here.
Yeah, I mean you can come in here, but part of the reason for the turn is because it's the direction that I want to come. I want to be able to turn here and come straight back in. So you can do it. You can certainly do it, but Dojinum talks about two very specific ways to respond. He usually talks about it with knife defense. You guys know? No.
Some preliminary knife stuff.
There's a principle that he talks about when he does it. We don't need one. We don't need one. It's because there's two different ways to approach an attack, and it's a funny way the way he talks about it. It's confidence and no confidence. And confidence is you block. Right? And anytime you're blocking, anytime you're addressing the attack, you don't have confidence. It's because he's striking at me, I've got to respond to that. And that he says those are no confidence techniques. So knife defense stuff, somebody comes in with a knife, you address the knife. So what would confidence techniques be?
just attacking.
Yeah, he's throwing a punch at me, that's fine. Okay, because I know I'm gonna get there faster than his punch is gonna get to me, and he's not. So all of these have that element, but we always start with the no confidence techniques. And later on, then we get into those, well, whatever, you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna attack you. As soon as that threat is there, I'm gonna attack you.
That was, just a quick comment to me. That was all Hapkido has the, what's called Sun Tzu attacking technique. But sometimes taught, I mean, we teach the Shinmui sports thing, in my old system was second thing, but the idea was, it's not strictly, we think it's self-defense, and you always have to be, and Mr. Bradley said, you always have to be on the defensive versus taking the initiative. So I think something in Shinmui that I noticed is emphasized is the confidence type of technique. Just, you know, if he looks at your body, you know.
Well, and that's the
Sense.
thing, we kind of carry that schoolyard mentality of, you know, well, he hit me first. You know, they have to punch first. It's in a self-defense or attack situation, it really is if you feel threatened. And, you know, for us to feel threatened, and I always talk about this with people, is adult males, what's our situation? When are you going to run into a self-defense situation? A real self-defense situation.
Usually over the girlfriend.
All right, so that's a fight. That is a fight that you can voluntarily step away from usually.
Can be.
Most situations like that, you have a way out. If it's a single attacker, it's very rare that you cannot get out of that situation. For most adult males, it is either multiple attacker, where you know you've got a group of guys, you know, that you're not getting away from there because they're going to use strength in numbers. The other is going to be weapon, all right, knife or a gun. A lot of times those go hand in hand, multiple attacker and a weapon. If you're working in law enforcement, you're working in some sort of setting where you've got to use this stuff. And then the other one really is you've chosen to stay in a situation that you could have gotten out of. The one outlier is the one when you're protecting somebody else, when you're protecting your family or something like that. But again, usually that falls into, and that can fall into what you were talking about there. But a lot of these are what we think of as self-defense situations are.
Avoidable situations.
What's that?
Avoidable situations.
Are defending your ego, not defending, and it is. I mean, that's what self-defense really is. It's, you know, you're defending your pride and that you could have gotten out of that situation. Really, if your life's threatened, you know it. That your body's going to tell you, and you're going to have that sense, you know, we're in this situation here and you guys are all coming towards me. I'm not waiting for anyone to throw the first punch. And that's one of the things that we get into this idea, because it does start more kids, you know, because we get in fights as kids, you know. Kids get in fights and you wait, you know, you're told, well, don't punch first, you know, wait for them. Doesn't apply to street, doesn't apply to real life self-defense situations. Yes?
This is semantics, but I'm looking at language. So the word threatened versus the word vulnerable, is there a greater impact on your susceptibility to being harmed if you're feeling vulnerable versus you're feeling threatened?
Right, yes, definitely. If you feel invulnerable, you're going to have your guard down to some extent. I don't know anyone who doesn't feel vulnerable in certain situations. And if you're feeling threatened, then that means to some extent you are vulnerable.
But does vulnerability have more of an opening for being harmed?
Vulnerability precepts.
I mean, someone going to perceive you as vulnerable, or you perceive yourself
I think it's really
vulnerable?
my own perception is how I'm perceiving myself, but it's on a subliminal level. It's like,
Right. The more, I mean, when I teach women's self-defense classes, for sure, that's a major thing, is not looking like a target, not looking vulnerable, not looking, right, being confident, and that's a fine line between, especially in martial arts world, is being overconfident. Being basically putting yourself in a bad situation because you don't feel threatened, knowing perfectly well that I should not walk down the street. You know, yeah, I can fight, I know how to do this. Well, our bodies tell us that too. Our bodies are very clear with, you know, you kind of have that gut sense feeling that's like, yeah, I should do this. We override it. You know, drinks override it. So there's ways that we ignore that, but
Threaten can still have a component of some degree of confidence, but vulnerability, I think, kicks out confidence, or it ekes it out, it pushes it out more.
right, right. Well, anytime you're in a, we're always vulnerable. We always have a bit of vulnerability no matter what.
Mhm.
And being aware of that is, I think, an important piece. Being
Mhm.
aware of that and addressing that and being able to not be overconfident and ignore, oh, I'm not vulnerable. Then that puts us in trouble. Falling victim to that vulnerability is the other flip side of that, which puts us even in more danger. So not recognizing the fact that, yeah, we've all have weaknesses, and in a self-defense situation, it's survivability. And I know that I don't have the, there's people out there much better than me, and there's situations that are going to be much more difficult for me to handle, but I'm going to survive. So my vulnerability is that I don't want to die there, or I don't, I'm going to get out of that situation. I'm going to do everything I can. It's not that, oh, I'm going to do this to this guy, I'm going to throw this guy. It's like, no, I'm going to fight my way out of there with anything possible and survive. So it's recognizing that we are vulnerable, but not falling victim to that, and that being helpless. And that's the biggest difference. Being vulnerable and being helpless are two very different things. And recognizing that, even with the skills that you have already, you're not helpless. Those kicks work. Somebody grabs you on the ground, those will work. Doing these strikes with confidence and knowing how to apply them. The more you know, the more tools you have and the less vulnerability there is. How do we get to that?
I don't know. Good, conscious, no conscious, basically.
Yeah, essentially. Well,
Confidence, no confidence.
confidence and no confidence,
Yeah.
okay. So there's ways to approach these. Any of these techniques, when he's punching in, I'm going to respond. I can either respond to that with there's a punch, I better address that. All right, and we're at the stage that we're at now, that's what we're going to do. But then a lot of our techniques jump right into the attack. And a lot of those will go in combination. We have the whole set of basic 8 where he grabs, well, what's this set called? It's static combination, but what essentially am I doing? He grabs me, what do I do when I do this technique?
Technique.
I attack. I essentially ignore the fact. It's like, well, whatever. You can grab me all you want. I'm going to do what I want. If you guys, you see Master Ken's new one? You guys watch the Enter the Dojo?
He doesn't. I was still trying to get him to watch.
So I'll throw the spoiler out there, but it's two-hand wrist grab. All right. We have tons of techniques from here. We have these escapes. We have all these things we can do. As a martial artist, what should never leave your mind as the most obvious technique in the world right here?
Punch him in the face.
Exactly. Right? And you don't even have to. Just doing that, what's he probably going to do?
Like
So, a lot of times we get especially Hapkido, you can fall into that one-trick pony sort of thing, it's like, well, what do? We got a whole bunch of wrist techniques, everybody wants to do them. You talk to Dojin about his fights and things like that, he was kicking, punching, headbutting people, and then every once in a while did some locks. Right? So, the reality of this is, don't forget about these basic things. So we'll start with that right now. We'll start from a straight punch, all right? And this is not really realistic. The stepping forward is kind of you have another martial art background?
Taekwondo long
Okay,
ago.
all right, it's still there. All right, so this here, this is...
That's how you're supposed to throw a punch.
Right.
Step into it.
Stepping into it's one thing. How do boxers throw a punch? Where do they get their power?
Shoulders. Back, shoulders.
Back, shoulders, that's where they develop some power there, but it's mostly hips. Mostly here, the hips, boom, you're throwing in. But it's that back cross is what tends to knock people out. It's not this, even if they're stepping in with the jab, it's still the cross is where they're going to get their power. And that translates to most, even street fights. Most people will have their right hand and they're going to throw this haymaker. They may step into it like that, but it's more often that it's just this. And it's using the whole hip. The more drinks, the more likely they throw a better punch, which is kind of weird. But straight punch, but let's step with the opposite. So come straight, we'll do a straight punch. And step like you're throwing across.
Reverse punch.
Straight. Right? So we're stepping in here, throwing that cross, coming in. All right? And I'm going to move in response to that. First one I'm going to do is here. All right? I'm driving straight in, rolling this pass. If you do a high block in most other styles, it's blocking here and trying to deflect it upward. I want to stick. I want him to stick, and I'm going to actually pull this past me because I want him to continue his motion forward, because as I do that, I'm going to come rolling straight in. Driving this straight up. And I want to be low. I want to be low. This goes straight past, keep it right here. Coming straight up.
Did you do that?
So let's work that. So actually I'll do 1 and 2. 1 and 2 together. I take a whole bunch of these techniques that we have in Shingo, and I kind of grouped them into categories. The second one is going to be a high block, more the traditional high block. And I'm going to block up and push up, similar to what we did before. Now at the same time, when I make contact there, I'm going to come down. I'm going to rake down and punch up. So coming up here, doing straight punches. So it's a straight punch, but I'm redirecting up, driving down. My strike is irrelevant. I can block up, do knife hands, palm strike, but hook down, uppercut up. They should make contact at the same time. Up, down. So 1, single motion, 2, 2 motions. Okay.
Where is this one?
You're coming right down across the cheek. Here, coming right through there. Basically hitting either I can come up here or come right to the bottom of the jaw, raking down. And again, use that cross, throw that from back here. I'm punching at you. I'm punching at you. Okay, throw this as a cross. We'll do punch defense. One of the drills that I'll do with a lot of my students is we'll start here. We learn basic, just don't respond with a big block. I'm not doing, there's no power here, just redirect this. Then I'm going to do, and that's the one we respond to. That's the one you're going to
Do you counter strike?
do your counter strike, do your locks, your takedowns. You're going to wait for that committed punch. Knife defense, somebody's going like this, they're waving. Are you trying to do a technique every time they're doing that? No, you wait. Women's self-defense, again, I use that because I was just teaching a class last week. Talk about things called windows of opportunity. You're waiting for something that is committed. And when somebody's throwing that full-on hard punch, that's what you're waiting for. They're throwing their jab up there. Why does somebody throw a jab usually?
To open you up for the
Yeah,
next
set up
punch.
to set up the knockout punch. Well, that's what you're waiting for. You're waiting for them to throw that knockout punch because that's the one that's easy to catch, easy to take down, their momentum is going to be committed to it. If they're just throwing this out here, they'll do this all day. That comes in, you better respond to it because you'll take your head off if you don't. All right, 2 techniques, go ahead.